Hey there, Fadnashi here. I am gonna go over some tips and tricks and stuff that I've learned, some of them quite recently, in how to help with your aiming and your movement. These things help me quite a bit. So, yeah, let's just jump into it. So, we're gonna go to the hideout. Now, unfortunately, this isn't something you automatically start with, which is unfortunate because it would be nice if you did. But once you do have access to the shooting range, this is probably the most useful thing in your hideout that you could use on a consistent day-to-day whatever basis, however often you want to just pop on and just use this for even just a few minutes at a time. Just go in here and, well, go nuts, because you can shoot some bullets, back up a little bit, and everything's reset to default. Everything's good to go again. So now the first thing I'm going to start off with is just the base mechanic of how the aim system in this game works, because some games there's a reticle on your screen and it's based on that. Other games, fewer games, but other games, it's actually based on where the weapon's pointing. Marauders is actually based on that. Wherever your weapon is pointing, that's where it will shoot. It's the same with this game, Escape from Tarkov. Wherever your weapon is pointing is actually where the bullet's going to go. Now, that's different from, let's say, Hunt Showdown, where you have a reticle, and if you have levering or something like that, where it's not based on where your weapon is pointed as much as where it's going to be in the reticle is going to be somewhat randomized. But in this game, it's purely deterministic based on where it happens to be pointing at the time. And I'm giving a visual with the lasers here just to show you that wherever these reticles are pointing is where it's going to go. Now, there is some bullet hovering that happens if you're too close or too far from a target, depending on certain elements. But for the most part, where you're pointing is where it's going to go. Now, in this case, I'm going to hit the Alt button so I can hold my breath. The reticle aimer, the red dot, is actually where it's going to be going. The two lasers are on the side of the gun, and although they help guide you, they aren't exact. If I were to say, try to hit the exact right side of this target dummy with that laser. No, that was, it hovered over, just hold on. Actually, this would be better, it's more deterministic. So, you see how that laser's on? I think it actually might have grazed the side of that target dummy. But the point is they're not exactly on point. They're close, but they're not exact. The red dot is much more accurate in that case. Now, that's all fine and dandy, but what happens if you don't have lasers on? Oh, your guide just went away. And not if you're just starting out, if you just got a weapon, maybe you don't have access to the flea market yet, you may not have a laser on your weapon, which to help you like see how the weapon's swaying around and all that stuff. And you can't just go ahead and plop like a reticle on your monitor and tape it there like you could with GoldenEye back in the day, because again, it's waving around all over the place. It gives you an idea, but you really have to actually pay attention to where the gun is actually pointing. That once you get a sense of that, your aim, you'll understand why the bullet's going where it's going, and your aim will improve dramatically once you get a sense of that. So, for example, you know, if I say, okay, let me look at where this red dot is, and let me hit the Alt button to hold my breath. Now, if I try to like memorize that spot on my screen and say, okay, that's where the bullet's gonna go, it's a rough idea. But let's say it's unfortunately a little bit too bright on that target dummy right now. So let's get this directly in the center and go back here. So I'm not holding my breath. Now, if you just had that imaginary target in the middle of your screen, look how much your weapon is swaying there. And my arm strength is going away, so it's going to be any worse. But even just normally, it gives you an idea of how much sway there is. So you really have to actually pay attention to the barrel, which is interesting. But once you get a feel of where that is, you can pretty accurately hit your target. Even go for those headshots that are very important. As you can see, about 5 of those that I was going for just in that last cluster, all headshots. Now, that's nice and all when you're standing still, but the nice thing about the hideout is actually the second hidden mechanic in this game is that when you're moving left and right, any movement whatsoever, but you feel it the most going left and right, the gun actually pulls the opposite way. So the best way to show this is to show this with the reticle, the red dot. So if I pull left, you see how it pulls right? That part doesn't count, so I have to go back this way. And now I'm going right, it's pulling left. Because that red dot is actually following the barrel of the gun. And just to show you what that looks like without aiming down sight, you can see it pulls right and it pulls left. And that's going to change where your aim should be on screen for whatever target. Let's say you push out around a corner and you're going right and your target is on that, around that corner. You want to make sure that you're kind of pulling more to the right with your aim because your barrel is actually pointed more left towards the screen. So let's say I push out and here's my target and I'm doing this. I actually have to pull a little bit to the right here just to be able to hit my target. And it's more dramatic when you're standing. There's more pull there. Now you can get used to this and pull left and right. And then you can start to see, maybe start with just aiming down sight and seeing, okay, yep, that's a hit. Okay, yep, I kind of feel that. Yeah, sure, that feels good. It's pretty easy to do when you're aiming down sight. The trick is going to be when you're not aiming down sight to get a sense of where that target is, because a lot of times if you push around the corner, you're probably not aiming down sight if your target's 10 feet in front of you. You're probably just going to start firing at them. Now, this happens to be a shotgun using slugs. I didn't want to use something with pellets because I wanted to show just a single piece of ammunition going out to the target to show how accurate and deterministic this actually is. Nothing that was automatic. So you can see I'm a little bit more off than I was before because you have to be because of the weapon pull. Now, the next thing that you want to get used to is like, okay, you going left and right. Yeah, sure. But every time I stop and I try to change direction, my character stops for a second to adjust because of the inertia that's in the game. Once you get used to going back and forth like this and firing and actually hitting your target a decent amount here, even going for those headshots, you're actually going to want to incorporate one more, which is another small hidden mechanic in this game. If you want to avoid your character just suddenly stopping because of the inertia, instead of just going left to right, you can incorporate the W and S key to go forward and backward, so that you kind of do almost like a little shuffling with your feet to basically prevent that stop mechanic from when you're trying to switch directions. Because if you go forward slightly and backwards slightly, or whichever direction you feel like going, if you're doing that while you're trying to change direction, it is significantly faster and you keep that momentum going to where you're harder to hit because you're still moving. Whereas the second you try to just stop and go a different direction, you're standing still for that split second. And in an FPS where split seconds matter, you standing still could be the difference between life and death. So you want to incorporate the forward and backwards movement keys to be able to get that movement down to where you're constantly moving without any real stoppage. And then start incorporating firing your weapon again. To get used to that pull while also still maintaining your fire while not stopping. That is ultimately what you want to do. Now, ideally, you want to hit as many headshots as possible, because if they don't have a complete face shield on their head, head eyes or jaw is going to be a one tap to the head, and that's what you ultimately want. But if you can't consistently do that, then the next best thing is to at least hit something. You don't want to constantly be aiming ahead and missing and going above their head. You want to at least hit the body, because then at least you're aim punching them. At least you're, which, by the way, aim punching, if you're not familiar with that term, just means when you get hit, your aim kind of reacts. Your character reacts to where your aim goes off where it shouldn't be for a split second. And the more often you can do that to your enemy, well, the less shots they're going to hit. And even if you can't hit a headshot, well, eventually that armor they're wearing is going to fail. And or they're going to mag dump you to where they run out of bullets. And then once they run out of bullets and they're reloading, and you still maybe have a couple of bullets left because you're using more controlled fire maybe or something like that, well then just stand still, aim, pop them in the head, they're done. Or if they're moving around, then you can just at least stop moving yourself and steady your aim. You're going to have much more success at that point. But that's tricky to do, because when you're in a firefight, especially at first, there's a lot of tension, there's a lot of nerves that build up, so you kind of have to do this repeatedly over and over to get used to that. Go for as many headshots as possible. Keep your movement fluid. You can even still do this while getting used to reloading, so you can get used to that while in a real situation. That ran out faster because my first one's a 20 round mag, but the rest are all 10 round mags. Now, once you get the feel for that, just like I did with the getting your feet wet, like getting started in Tarkov video, you can now do the same thing here. Go to factory, turn on enable practice mode, and start playing with the AI to get for a feel for this. Now, you may or may not be able to run this on Horde mode. I can run it on Horde mode offline just fine. You might have to turn this down to high, potentially medium. Now, I'm just going to plop this on easy just because it's demonstration purposes. But just so you're aware, even on easy, I've gone around a corner and a scav has just instantly headshot me and I'm done. So even on easy, they're still not the easiest things ever. But it's less likely that'll happen. But you can, of course, as you're going, adjust the difficulty as you see fit. And you can even play with this tagged and curse where they're coming to you more often. But I like the not having this on for realistic practice, because you're more often going to see someone around the corner and they're going to react to you. And that's kind of what this setup does. I'm just going to hit the ready button. And we're going to go in. I just have class 4 armor, class 4 helmet. I believe it's class 4. It's just to mostly protect against most of the weapons they have, although I don't have a complete face shield on, so they can still get a headshot on me in the head-eyes region. Scavs take a minute or so to spawn in. I'm going to have that ready just in case, just to kind of show sometimes where the aim is going. I kind of like to unlock these, because this is like a nice little safe haven. You may or may not have the key to this little area. It doesn't matter if you do or don't. There's plenty of areas you can be safe in while you heal up if you need to. This does have a front and back door key version. Yep. There's the FPS drop, and we have scavs now. Got some movement in front of us. Try to go for headshots. Body shots are okay too. I'm actually gonna reload here. Oh, there's one. Because that's what you really want, is you want to get used to that reaction shooting. You want to feel where that gun is aiming because you practice enough in the hideout. But if you don't have that shooting range in the hideout, by the way, just go into practice mode in factory. This will kind of give you the same idea. You can even load in without scavs. Go find like a light on a wall somewhere and use that for practice. That was a shoulder shot, but they're not wearing armor, so... I'm actually going to close this door right here. Just, I want to reload a little bit here, because... Horde mode, there's a lot of scavs. You run out of bullets very quickly, even if you're one-tapping them. But this should give you the idea. This is ultimately what you want to be practicing so that when you go into a live raid, you run into somebody around the corner, you can quick try to get a headshot from the hip. You can do this with a shotgun. The shotgun's probably is effective, especially with the buckshot or Magnum Express rounds, because if you're this close by, especially in a factory map, getting that quick one tap to the head can be very effective if they're not wearing a full-on helmet. If they are, you're kind of at a disadvantage at that point, unfortunately. This will also give you a chance to get a feel for what reloading is like. But I took a bunch of slug rounds just to highlight that I really am pinpoint aiming from the hip, and it is very deterministic and very realistic to be able to do that. Oh, they gotta tag me there. It gets a little more difficult when they're going that much farther out, but that first one went down real quick. It's gonna heal here. But again, just like the previous video, rinse or repeat this until you get a good feel. The lean actually does kind of affect where it's aiming a little bit. So I'm not as used to that. I have to practice that more. Ooh. That was a nasty shot. See, even on easy mode, you get hurt. I'm gonna quick splint that up. But yeah, this is perfect for just getting practice in that, so that when you go in a live environment, much more likely to get those quick snap headshots. Go for a little bit more here. Oh, that's not fully capped out yet. Oh, actually, I can use the laser here to kind of show. There could be someone in the scav dead room over here. The dead scav area. That's the dead scav room right there. But as you can see, the reason why I use the lasers here is just to completely prove where the weapon's pointing is where that bullet's going to go. Hip firing is 100% accurate. You just have to get used to where the barrel's pointing. If you get used to that visual and you can keep that in mind, your chances, your hit rate should go dramatically higher. They should dramatically increase. Your accuracy rating. That's kind of what I was going for. Might take a few extra shots sometimes, depending on the range, especially if you're not using lasers. I pulled up way too hard there, but that's why this is here. This is perfect practice for that. It's also nice that you can feel like you can get used to aiming while getting hit. You can shoot through grates here. See if I have enough to stop the bleeding. Alright, I may die here. Let's see what happens. If it's less than half, we might as well switch it out, because I got more bullets in a different mag then. It's hard to see when this type of filter is on the screen when you're in pain. Oh, they're behind the rock area? Oh, there you are. I think I hit them. I'm not sure. Alright, let's just go out there and let them end this. And this is with a single... This is with a single fire mode weapon right now. If you were using an automatic that didn't have too much recoil on it, which in the new update 14, 0.14 I should say, that's going to be on the next wipe. Recoil is supposed to be drastically reduced. There we go. Especially recoil drastically being reduced. Automatic firing is going to make that so much easier. I'm using a shotgun to show that even with a single fire rate, you can still accurately, reasonably accurately, hit your shots, even at, you know, sketchy distances. And if you have lasers, of course, that's going to make that infinitely easier. But if you want to do night raids, you gotta be careful with lasers, because a lot of people are going to have night vision, and lasers will reveal your position very quickly. Even in daytime, you want to be careful with having your lasers on, because they do reveal your position, although they're harder to see, which is nice. But if you're inside a building, well, they're going to know which angle you're coming out from if you have those lasers on. I just want to see, like, stomach, thorax, headshot, 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 a bunch of headshots in a row, and others that were just normal shots, and maybe wouldn't have killed a PMC, but they might have done some damage. It might have been a limb shot somewhere, because the rounds I'm using, even if I hit an arm or a leg, they're gonna go completely out, and then they have to use surgery. It's a pain for them, and that gives you some advantage. But the point is, you can very easily hip fire in this game, and it's completely deterministic. Just, if you don't have the firing range, go into practice mode and kind of just get the feel for that. But if you have the firing range in your hideout, use it. The firing range is one of the most underutilized tools in the game that you have once you unlock it. Just before you go into a raid, just go in your hideout, spend a minute or two in here with whatever loadout you got, run right up to it, and just move around. You can aim down sight if you want to, obviously do what you want, however you feel like you gotta go, like, get into the feel of the rhythm or anything like that, and just start going for it. And once you feel more comfortable, increase how fast you're hitting those shots. And again, because even if a lot of your shots are body shots, there is some that are headshots here. But every single hit is going to cause an aim punch effect on the enemy. And that dramatically increases your chance of survival because that means their aim is going way off kilter. And that's just going to benefit you. It doesn't matter if you're using a shotgun, doesn't matter if you're using an automatic weapon, whatever you're using, use this and get used to hip firing and get used to where the roughly your barrel is pointing so you can accurately shoot at the target that you need to, especially when you're strafing left to right. You would be very surprised how often you're in a firefight and you're in this movement left to right kind of situation. And if you're not used to that, if you're not used to how the gun pulls, if you're not used to where your bullets are going, you're probably going to end up missing most of your shots, and you're going to probably end up dying to the other player in those firefights. But if you actually do this and you actually practice, your chance of survival goes up. Now, people have been doing this for a long time. It may take a little while for you to compete against those players, but this is what's going to bring you up to that level to where you're going to actually be able to compete against them and actually do damage to them and even have a chance to live and win and extract to take home all that sweet loot. So there you go. Movement, aiming, hideout, shooting range, practice mode. Use all those tools you have to get used to these mechanics. They're vital to your survival. Thank you for joining me. Have a good one. Get out of here. Bye.